Hello, my dear students and the rest of the learners. Welcome to part 44 of a 53-part series of tutorials in System Analysis and Design course. In this presentation, we shall be looking on the deployment procedures of the new system. My name is Memeji M, or you can simply call me Emily Swap. This is part 4 of the topic, Perform System Implementation. As I have said, in this presentation, we shall be looking on the deployment procedures of the system. System deployment refers to installing the system in a live environment and making it available to real users. Deployment activities include installation, documentation, training, and preparation of maintenance and support. The deployment ensures that the system is fully operational and usable by end users. Deployment procedures, therefore, involves releasing the new system into live environment and ensuring that the users can effectively use it. It marks the transition from testing to live operation. In other words, at this step, the new system that was designed is rolled out and used in its actual environment. It marks the transition from testing to live operation. The following are therefore the activities that are involved in system deployment. Number 1 is system installation. Number 2 is system documentation. Number 3 is training or post-deployment. And number 4 is maintenance, or what we call post-deployment support. Let us now look at each of these activities or steps one at a time. We begin with the system installation. This involves setting up the system in the operational environment, ensuring that all the components function correctly as intended, including the servers, networks, and user devices. For example, installing a campus network system involves configuring servers, workstations, and networking devices. It therefore involves 1. Setting up the hardware, 2. Installing software applications, 3 is configuring the networks, 4 creating user accounts, 5 assigning access rights, and 6 running initial test cases in order to confirm that the system works correctly. Example is a student registration system which is installed on college servers, then configured for secure access and tested by the registrar before being opened to students. Therefore, system installation includes 1. Loading software onto servers, workstations, and other devices. Number 2, configuring the hardware, network settings, and system parameters. Number 3 is verifying operational readiness. It is carried out as follows. 1. Prepare installation environment. 2. Install system components, that is the software and applications. 3 is configure system settings. 4. Conduct installation testing. 5. Ensure system accessibility. 6. Verify system readiness. Let's now look at system documentation. What is system documentation? Documentation is the process of keeping or maintaining a complete historical record from the system's inception through different stages of development to the last stages of maintenance and review. In other words, system documentation is not a one-day activity. It is supposed to be done continuously from the time when analysis takes place to the design, to the implementation, throughout all the stages. So systems analyst does documentation continuously. It provides detailed information about system operation, maintenance, and usage. It provides written guidance for users and technical staff. System documentation is therefore a written record of the steps taken during the system development process, thus serving as a guideline to whoever wants to know the details of the system in place. It includes user manuals, technical manuals, installation guides, troubleshooting guides, operational guides, system flowcharts, file structures, sample test data, expected outputs, and reports. Proper documentation ensures sustainability and ease of troubleshooting. It provides a reference for system use, maintenance, and troubleshooting. It enhances system sustainability and knowledge transfer. It forms part of the final report to management and serves as a historical record of system development from inception through maintenance. Documentation, therefore, provides 1. Detailed instructions on system operations and procedures. 2. Technical specifications for maintenance and troubleshooting. 3. User manuals for training and reference. It is done as follows. 1. Prepare user documentation, that is manuals or guides. 2. Develop technical documentation, which includes system architecture as well as the code. Number 3 is review and validate the documentation. Number 4, distribute documentation to relevant stakeholders. Some reasons why documentation of a system is therefore necessary include 1, it is necessary for the continuity of the project if it had been stopped at some point before completion. Number 2, it shows the programmer who decided and left the organization, and therefore that existence of the documentation can allow any new programmer to not only understand the system, but also understand it and improve it. And therefore, the programmer who developed the new system, when he or she leaves the organization, he does not go with the system or the knowledge. Everything is left documented so that any other programmer can be able to follow that documentation, understand the new system, and even be able to make changes to it. Number 3, precise documentation is in the modification that may be necessary. Therefore, system documentation involves the following activities. Number 1 is reporting on fact finding. 2 is doing what we call the requirement specification. Number 3 is developing the system and the module flowcharts. 4 is describing the table or file structure. 5 is including the sample test data and the results that were gotten. 6 is producing the output reports. 7 is doing the user manual. Let's now begin with reports on fact finding. This is prepared by the analyst at the end of the fact finding stage, and it outlines the following. Number 1, the methods that were used to collect the data. Number 2, the problems that were encountered in this exercise. Number 3 are the weaknesses of the current system as evidenced by the collected data. Number 4 are the recommendations with respect to the system maintenance, why there is a need for new system or upgrade of the new system, amongst others. Number 2 is requirements specification. Now, this report mainly outlines the following. Number 1, the output requirements for the new system, such as reports. Number 2 are the input requirements. Number 3 is the hardware as well as the software which is required to develop the new system. Number 3, system flowcharts. Now, system flowcharts shows the overall functionality of the proposed information system. At the end of the design phase, the system analyst must always write a report that contains the following. The system flowchart or data flow diagrams that indicates how the processing logic of the new system works. any module flowchart that may help programmers in the construction of the required subsystem or modules. Number 4 are the table or file structure description. What are tables, structures, or file structures? Description. Now, depending on the approach used in the system construction, the report should contain file or table structure definitions. For example, if you opt to construct a system using customization approach, details on table structures should be well documented. For example, indicating the field names, the data types for each field, the properties for each field, the descriptions, as well as the primary keys for each table. The report of the system should indicate the structure of all the tables, including the keys such as primary keys associated with each record in the table. It should also contain the full description of all tables maintained in the new system, as well as the data types of the fields that have been used. Next is to prepare the sample test data. To test whether the new computerized information system is working as expected, you need to make use of test data for every module or subsystem, and it's always good to keep the data you have used to test the system. So the records should be used, showing an entry for each field in the table being tested. Number 6 is producing the output reports. To prove that the system is working and giving the desired result, you should provide a number of sample output from the various system modules. Number 7 is user manual. This is a documentation that is used by the system users to enable them to use or operate the new system with as little guidance as possible. To ensure the smooth running of the new system, the system analyst works with the end users in order to develop a user manual that is going to be maintained provided the system is in operation, including online help and the websites that should feature frequently asked questions. The user manual assists the users on how to operate the system and what to do in the case of problems. The user manual contains the information such as how to install, start, and run the system, how the system appears when running, that is the interface, how to carry out various tasks, as well as error correction and how to get help when faced by exceptions. This would be in troubleshooting kind. The other important task is training or post-deployment. Post-deployment training ensures that users can effectively utilize the system and adapt to operational changes. Post-deployment training reinforces user skills and addresses challenges that are encountered during system use. Therefore, training equips users with the practical skills on how to use the new system effectively and confidently. It aims to convince staff of the system's effectiveness, remove fear of change, and enable users to perform their daily tasks efficiently. Ordinarily, the ordinary users learn system navigation and reporting. Managers learn system oversight and decision support, while ICT staff learn system architecture and maintenance. In other words, my dear students and the rest of the learners, it is always important to ensure, in the same way you prepare manuals for each category of users, it is in the same manner that each category of the users needs training that matches with what they are expected to do. For example, the end users are trained on how to use the system. The managers are trained on how to oversight or supervise the system's use and make decisions. But the ICT staff may be taught, or the programmers may need to be trained about the architecture and maintenance of that system. It involves needs assessment, development of training materials, hands-on sessions, workshops, demonstrations, lectures, short courses, and evaluation of user proficiency. It reinforces user familiarity and confidence by teaching staff, for example, in an education institution, on how to perform tasks, use system features, and respond to errors as well as emphasizing on security protocols and operational procedures. For example, after implementing an e-learning platform, continuous training helps instructors adopt advanced features such as analytics and virtual classrooms. This activity is done as follows. Number 1, conduct refresher training sessions. 2, provide practical demonstrations. 3, provides hands-on practice. 4, address user challenges and the questions raised. Then, number 5, offer continuous technical support and help desk services in the case of need. The other, almost the last task or activity is maintenance, or what we call post-deployment support. Maintenance ensures that the system remains functional, secure, and aligned with the organizational needs. It includes 1, corrective measures to fix bugs. 2, adaptive maintenance to accommodate new requirements. 3, perfective maintenance to improve performance. And 4, preventive maintenance to produce future failures, or to reduce future failures. Preventive maintenance to reduce future failures. Activities in maintenance include monitoring performance, applying updates, backing up databases, as well as responding to user support requests. In addition, information and data security are key and must be configured during system implementation in order to protect the system or the data against unauthorized access, disclosure, and data loss. Security controls include user authentication, access rights, encryption, audit trails, secure backups, and network protection mechanisms. Implementers must therefore ensure that all security features built into the new system are properly activated before deployment. And with that, my dear students and the rest of the learners, we have come to the end of part 44 of this series. Join me in part 45 of this series, in which we are going to undertake an assessment to assess what we have learned in this topic so that you can be able to know whether to proceed to the next topics or to repeat the lessons we have already learned through the topics or presentations from part 41 to this part. So part 45 is going to feature on revision questions and the marking scheme for the same to help you be able to internalize, revise, and remember about performing system implementation. Congratulations, therefore, for learning part 44 of the series on development procedures of the system in Perform System Implementation topic in System Analysis and Design course. You can access the rest of the parts in the series, as well as other computer or ICT videos, by clicking or tapping on the Meliswap ICT YouTube channel below this video. To subscribe to the channel, tap on the subscribe button below this video in YouTube if it's not currently reading as subscribed. For any further correspondence, kindly write it to us through the email meliswap@gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening to me. Let's meet in part 45 of the series for revision, and God bless.